Alright cabbages, slight curveball today for the vlog. If you've been around this channel more than 5 minutes, you'll know I normally bang on about beer. Craft beer, bad beer, overhyped beer, beer marketing nonsense, all of that. But today I'm parking the hops for a little bit because I've realised something quite alarming recently. I listen to a lot of podcasts, like an unhealthy amount. Walking, driving, editing, tidying the house, avoiding responsibilities. Podcasts are basically the background music to my life. And weirdly, when I actually thought about it, most of the ones I religiously listen to have absolutely nothing to do with beer. So, this video is my top 5 non-beer podcasts. Not the best podcasts ever made, not the most important podcasts, just the ones I personally keep coming back to week after week, year after year. And the most common thread with all of these isn't polish or production values, it's voice. These are podcasts that feel like people talking to you, not at you. Right, let's get into it.
It's Monday, don't groan, don't fear. The Beard and Beer blog bloke is here. Talking nonsense, beard on show. Grab a brew and watch him go.
At number 5, the UK Haunted Podcast. Now, I'm not a hardcore paranormal believer. I'm sceptical, but I'm also very open to a good story. And this podcast absolutely understands the power of storytelling. UK Haunted focuses mostly on ghost stories, hauntings, folklore, UFO sightings, and strange encounters, mostly rooted in the UK. And British paranormal stuff just kind of hits differently. It's rarely glamorous. It's often deeply mundane, which somehow makes it more unsettling. It's not ancient curse in a Transylvanian castle. It's something weird happened in a semi-detached in 1994, and everyone just sort of lived with it. The tone is what really sells it for me. Calm and measured, no hysterics, no constant nudging to tell you how scared you should be. The stories are presented, not performed. This is very much context listening for me. Nighttime, headphones, walking, driving alone. It's not background noise, it's immersive. You don't have to believe any of it. You just have to enjoy being told a story properly, and that's why it earns its place here. At number 4, Is Jericho. This one's a bit of a shapeshifter. It's often described as a wrestling podcast, and sometimes it absolutely is. But just as often, it's about music, conspiracy theories, mental health, creativity, cults, that was hard to say, UFOs, or just deeply strange life experiences. What makes this podcast work is that Is Jericho is genuinely curious. He's not trying to win interviews or corner guests into gotcha moments. He wants to hear stories, and because of that, guests tend to relax. Some episodes are tight and focused, others completely derail, and honestly, I don't mind either. It just feels very human. This is a podcast I dip in and out of rather than religiously following every episode. But when it lands, it really lands, especially when it leans into the more weird and fringe stuff. It's chaotic but sincere, and sincerity carries a podcast a long way. And at number 3, Rank Rotten. This podcast scratches a very specific itch for me. Re-examining movies that we've collectively decided are bad. I fucking hate guys that do air quotes. Each episode takes on films that have scored rotten on the Rotten Tomatoes website. Movies that critics and culture have written off and actually asked why. Was it expectation? Timing? Genre snobbery? Or is it genuinely rubbish? What I like about it the most is it's not contrarian for the sake of it. Mike and Kat are trying not to be edgy by saying everything is secretly a masterpiece. If a film's a mess, they'll say so. But they're also very good at spotting when a film has been unfairly judged. That mindset feels very familiar to how I think about beer. Hype, reputation, context, and whether something deserves the label it's been given. It's thoughtful, funny, and very crucially, not smug. Number 2 on the list is the Adam Buxton podcast. This is the most emotionally intelligent podcast on this list. Adam Buxton's show feels like the opposite of algorithm-driven content. Episodes start with him wandering around, often with his dog Rosie, just talking. No rush, no agenda, and then you get these long, open-ended conversations with guests. And the diversity of the guests is the key. Comedians, actors, musicians, writers, directors, people you know well, and people you should know. What connects them isn't fame, it's thoughtfulness. Adam gives people space. Silence is allowed. Awkwardness isn't edited out. Vulnerability isn't rushed past. And because of that, guests often end up saying things you will not hear anywhere else. Not anecdotes of polished for press tours, just thoughts, doubts, and reflections. This podcast reminds me that creative people are just people, and that is oddly comforting. It's the one I put on when I want to slow down, reflect, or feel quietly connected to something human. And finally, at number 1, my personal favourite podcast, Acceptable in the 80s. This is the podcast I listen to the most consistently. The one I reach for without thinking. The one that reliably makes me laugh out loud. Yeah, it's kind of a nostalgia podcast. 2 mates, Cunt and Roy, they pick a month in the 80s and chat through what happened in music, TV, news and culture. But it's not sentimental. It doesn't romanticise the decade. Instead, it interrogates how utterly unhinged the 80s were. And what really elevates it are the games and recurring bits. Chart-based challenges where they dissect just how bad or bizarre certain hits were. TV listing deep dives, uncovering absolutely insane scheduling decisions. Games like Ponce or Nonce, where you genuinely cannot believe some of the things Cunt comes out with. And of course the best thing, recurring jokes and callbacks that reward long-time listeners. These segments give the podcast structure, but they never feel rigid. They're excuses for banter, derailment, and increasingly ridiculous tangents. If you haven't listened to it yet, have a good listen. Hopefully you'll pick an episode where Cunt talks about Roy's magic dressing gown. It's unhinged. That's me saying that. But yeah, that's where the magic is, the chemistry between these two guys. They're two people who've known each other for long enough to interrupt, derail, mock, and completely derail each other without it ever feeling forced. It feels like overhearing a conversation that you're not meant to hear. And that's podcast gold. This is my comfort podcast, the one that improves my mood almost instantly. And that's why Acceptable in the 80s takes the top spot. What ties all these podcasts together isn't subject matter, it's trust. I trust these hosts to be themselves. I trust them not to chase trends. And I trust them not to overproduce or over-explain. And weirdly, that's something podcasts still do better than most YouTube content. Podcasts allow rambling, silence, imperfection. You don't need a punchline every 10 seconds. These shows feel like company to me, not content. And that is why they stick. So that is my top 5 non-beer podcasts in order. If you've got recommendations, chuck them down in the comments. I'm always looking for the next thing to obsess over. If you enjoyed this, do the YouTube bits like subscribe and all that shit. And I'll be back soon. Probably with more beer-related stuff. Probably.